All right, Dan. Well, what a fun podcast, man. We were able to finally catch up and talk over our Septembers, man. You had an epic one, and it was sure fun to hear about some of those bulls and then compare notes.
Yeah, this conversation is the most exciting for me, or like, the most anticipated because September just ended. We both had epic seasons, and we got to recap that and talk about our experiences, our encounters, and how some giants fell to the mystical flight of the arrow, as Uncle Ted would say. So, yeah, what a great podcast.
It was a great one too when it's so fresh in our minds. Like you still got your September beard going, like I'm freshly
Yeah.
shaved, but it's just so fresh in our minds. We had these close encounters and just what the difference was from finding success to not finding success, and to be able to compare notes on that and talk about capitalizing on opportunities, to talk about instincts. I just thought the conversation was so fresh, and so yeah, that's why I was so excited today recording it. So it sure was a good one.
Definitely, definitely.
Yep. Well, we want to thank sponsors for today's show. We're hoping Dan and I still remember how to podcast. It's been a while, but yeah, I want to thank Cutter Stabilizers for building great stabilizers. I used them all season. Yeah, Cutter just they don't cut any corners as far as craftsmanship, as far as quality, great connections. You can shoot, and it goes like me and Dan shoot different setups for our stabilizers. I shoot a back bar, front bar, I shoot a 15-12. I shoot a different weight configuration, but it works for me, and Dan's stabilizers work for him, and Cutters have every different stabilizer for every different preference on your bow. And it really makes a difference on your hold, on the reaction of the bow. And I love like how if I'm getting low misses, like I can take a weight off the front or add a weight to the back, and all of a sudden I'm able to take those low misses. And so it seems like I'm able to change, almost the reaction of my bow from it. So yeah, I want to thank the guys over at Cutter. Dan, you were using this season as well, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little, overlooked item on an accessory on your bow is a stabilizer, and I believe it is very important, as Brian illustrated. So, yeah, it's just as important as your sight. It's just as important as your rest, in my opinion. And so, yeah, mess with them, and that's the cool thing about Cutter is the modularity, uh, adding, taking weight off, and just really tailoring that stabilizer to your setup and to your tendencies, and ultimately making you a better shot. So that's what's important.
Yep. And I saw Earl Stroll, who's the owner of the company, small business owner, but I saw he arrowed a good antelope and arrowed a bull this year. So he's had a heck of a season. Congrats to him. And yeah, then we also want to thank Team Lodge. So you were using Team Lodge this season, huh, Dan?
Yeah, Team Lodge. It's a trailer company. They make trailers basically customized for hunting for outdoorsmen. Not everything that I do is backcountry. I did use a lot of horses this year. Did a lot of backcountry stuff this year, but I did sleep in the Team Lodge for about 10 days on some of these front country hunts. And so, yeah, they're just tailor made for hunters, and it's practical use. They're bomb proof. As I say this before, I mean, a grizzly bear could be jumping on top of that thing and you wouldn't know, because they're just bomb-proof trailers that you actually set them on the ground. So they have a hydraulic, and they go bzzz, and you set them down on the ground. And so they're not tippy, they're not rocky. The wind doesn't do anything to them. They're super quiet, and they're just constructed with, once again, the hunter in mind. You can throw in a side-by-side, a four-wheeler, a couple dirt bikes. We had e-bikes on this last trip that was pretty clutch in the situation that we were in, just because we could like go in on this old logging road undercover through bugling elk in this thick timber silently on e-bike. So kind of a cool setup. So that's what we used. We hauled those in the Team Lodge this year. A couple bunks, you get the stove in there, you have a microwave, you have the refrigerator, even some have toilets in them if you want to use that. But just yeah, well thought out bomb proof trailers. The guys that make them, once again, it's a small company. It's just like Cutter. I mean, it's a small company. It's like Eastman's, really. It's a small family owned company, and customer service is awesome, and they just make great products. And so it's cool to be able to work with companies like Cutter, like Team Lodge, like Evolution Outdoor, like all these companies that they're small and they make a premium product that it's easy for us to stand behind them, because they're just awesome products. So yeah, check out Team Lodge. If you hear us talking about Team Lodge on this podcast and you're interested and you go buy a trailer, Michael he's the owner. He will buy you a custom rifle or a bow, whatever setup you want. He'll buy you a setup if you just mention that you hear Team Lodge on Life of the Bowhunter podcast. So go check out Team Lodge. Go buy yourself a Team Lodge. They really are awesome.
Man, I could go for some comfortable camping. I ate way too much granola. I don't backpack on all my hunts, so it has been nice to live out of a cooler. But yeah, to have a nice camp like that, be able to cook a nice dinner, yeah, just feel so refreshed. It's like a great way to go. So yeah, definitely check those guys out at Team Lodge. And then, yeah, Dan and I are just getting back to work. I know I was just wrapping up a couple articles for the magazine, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. You can definitely pick up some great tips and tactics and read our subscriber stories of successful animals that they've harvested. So definitely check those out. Eastman's Beyond the Grid is our YouTube channel. So we should have some new ones hitting. I think I've got that deer hunt coming up. Some new ones hitting, and man, how excited are you for the next season? Like, gosh dang it, we filmed some epic hunts this season, huh?
Yeah, we have basically 5 awesome elk hunts in the can, archery hunts. So, dadgum, 2026 or 2025, that's what we're in, right? 2025 is going to be an elk heavy season with incredible action. So I'm excited for the new season. But yeah, deer hunts coming up, coming into deer season, right? Kind of the transition time and the rut coming up, and so we got some deer hunts that we're going to release. Just great stuff, great Western hunting, DIY, public land stuff that anybody can do. So we're proud to release those, and coming up here in probably about 3 or 4 weeks. So
perfect. Just in time for late season for the muley rut. So yeah, I'm excited to release those and excited to hunt some mule deer during the rut as well. So great podcast today, Dan. Check out everything that we're doing over at Eastman's, other podcasts as well. We have the Mule Deer Collective, Elk Collective. So I just mentioned it in my article today, just about, furthering your learning curve, and that there's still, there's great opportunity out there to harvest good critters. It's just about furthering your knowledge and then putting in the work. And yeah, Dan and I are the proof of just a couple average guys that love to bow hunt that downed some good critters this season. And we'll get right into it on the podcast. So let's get chatting, Dan.
Let's do it.
Well, we'll just get rolling. Yeah, you look like you've been hunting elk for about a year. It seems like a long season, huh?
Look at my mustache. I look like Rip Van Winkle or something. I have a beard grow. I haven't done anything, no personal care at all for the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, you got a trophy beard going, man. That's awesome. Yeah, man, it's been wild, hasn't it? Fall just comes and goes so quick.
Yeah, it really does. And it's when you have all these hunts and you're packing them in, and I think I've been home 3 days in the last 5 weeks, and you want to get the most out of these experiences, and the most, especially the tags that you wait a long time to draw. And so it's a weird place to be in, and you want to enjoy them. You don't want, I don't know. It's this, I usually hunt over the counter stuff, or stuff that's very easy to get. And so for me to have like a tag that's, hard to draw, it's taken me a while. It was a weird place to be in, but I tried to enjoy it.
Yeah. So you feel the pressure a little bit on that one, or gosh, you were going hard. It seems like you were hunting there a bunch of days. We tried to keep in touch throughout season a little bit, but we kind of lost connection there for a while. I was hunting so hard and you were hunting so hard, but yeah, it seems like you were a bunch of days over there, huh?
Yeah, I got in a weird mode. I found this 400-inch bull, and I was just like, tunnel vision and just keeping to myself and not really on social media or not talking to anybody. and just a weird mode. And there's pressure, right? But ultimately you have to tell yourself it's just another elk hunt. And these big bulls are just elk. They're, I think sometimes, whether it's a 200-inch mule deer or maybe a 380 plus bull, you put these animals up on a pedestal that they're like these unkillable creatures, but ultimately they tick just like any other bull. Yeah, they have age on them, so they're probably a little bit smarter, but they're just doing elk things. And so you just stick with the plan. And that's what we've been preparing for our whole careers, right? Is hunting these big bulls and doing all these other hunts that prepare us for it. And so, yeah, in the end, it was very enjoyable because it's just another elk hunt. That's how you got to look at it, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. They do get age and they do get pretty crafty, I find. It's like I had a grind of a hunt for my high country mule deer. And gosh, I played everything perfect, had everything right. And I actually passed up, like I had a couple bucks that I'd shoot, one that I called Red that was like about a 190-inch typical, but he was probably only 4 or 5. He still had his red coat. He just didn't look that old. And then there was this beast of this deer that was like, had a 3x4 frame, probably like mid 190s, had 2 stickers in his palmation points up front, a buck that I really wanted. And so I passed up the perfect stock on Red on the first day because I wanted to have a chance at that giant, and he was older and I did get a chance at him, but gosh, I was like 4 or 5 days in. Red never made another mistake. Like some elk hunters went through the basin, they started feeling the pressure, and it's just those older age class animals, man. They're just so switched on that and I had a chance on my first choice buck, that sticker buck, that big 3x4, big 30-inch frame, had him at 56 yards broadside. And he just heard us whispering, trying to get set up for the shot. And then he was staring right at us, and we had to stare off for, it felt like an hour. I think it was only about 5 minutes or something. And then he tried to escape. I got a range, drew on him, and he stopped perfectly broadside, pull, and that shot broke, and that buck was out of the way before that arrow got to him. I missed behind his butt by a foot. And it's like, it's all on camera, but it was just like, you talk about the low of the hunt. And to get on that buck and the stalk I had to make, I mean, it was 2,000-foot climb. It was miles around. I'd been hunting him for days. This was my first real chance at him. And then to miss him clean is like, and then that buck tightened up his program where he was living on a hillside. I knew where he was. He just wouldn't make a mistake. He was living in buckbrush that was over my head. I mean, one night I spent, an hour, 2 hours, like 130 yards away from him. Nothing I could do. I just couldn't get in on him. I finally had to leave that buck and go find a different buck. He'd got so crafty and smart. So those older age class animals, they are tricky. Your best chance to kill them is your first chance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, from past lessons too, once you find an animal and there's so many factors that go into play, but if you're like 50-50 that you can kill this thing, you should probably try it. Because it depends on the area, it depends on the weather, it depends on what's coming in, it depends on what tag. But like you experience, you may never see that animal again. And so, yeah, don't be reckless. And a lot of this just comes with experience, I guess, and feel. But if you find a big one, yeah, there's no like, oh, we'll come back after him tomorrow because he's too far or whatever. But if it's a hard place to be in. And all I know is over the years, I've definitely lost big animals like that more than I've killed them if I've chosen to like hunt them another day or plan on hunting them for multiple days, because they just things happen, predators, like all these factors. And ultimately, and we talked a lot about this, me and my camera guys and a buddy of mine earlier this week, that I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are or how much experience you have or what your resume is, whatever, you still need a percentage of like luck, of things that like fall in your place. Otherwise it just won't happen. And it's the beauty of hunting, right? I mean, and with that comes some of the lows of the lows and then highs of highs if you're lucky enough. But that's why we do it, I guess.
Dude, it is. This is the most difficult thing on planet Earth. And it's not. Success isn't guaranteed, no matter how hard you work, how much you put in. Like that deer hunt, I kept pushing till the very end. But I mean, you're talking out of food. I'm at the last of my days. And I mean, I just made a Hail Mary play and able to find a good buck and then get narrow in them. But you're right. You need a bit of those things to go your way. And you talk about like capitalizing on opportunities when you get the chance. And so on my second elk hunt, or this elk hunt that was in a limited draw unit, I had found a great big bull, and he's a big 350 pluser, and he was in a pretty good spot, pretty good wind, and it was like my first night in there, and so I'm trying to get some footage of him, and all of a sudden the winds change, and they start going downhill, which I knew was going to happen, and so all of a sudden my play kind of dissipated where I had to make a big circle around him and went around him, and we spotted him at, and it's like running out of light, and I told my cameraman, I'm like, I just got to give him a try. He's in the perfect spot. We have the perfect wind. If I can get there, I can kill him. And so I went for a play that I was pretty sure I didn't have enough time to make. And sure enough, I got 150 yards from him, and I just ran out of light. He's in the perfect spot. Never let him know I'm there. I back out, still bugling, like, great, get on him in the morning. I never saw that bull again the rest of the hunt. Gone. I actually thought I was on him the next day. I found one across the drainage, and it was a big beast of a bull, and it was like an elk party. There was 5 bulls in there, and he was definitely the dominant bull. And so I chased him that morning, put him away to bed, and I'm like right off his bed. And that day I had like a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind from like left to right, or, coming out of this direction. And when the first time I saw him, I expected to see this big 6-point I was chasing the night before. And all of a sudden he had 7 on one side, had 7 on the other. I'm like, hey, that's a different bull. Like, so I never did see that 6-point again. And I was able to make things happen on that bull. But yeah, it's you do 50-50 chance, or if there's an opportunity to kill that animal, you almost got to take it and then rely upon your instincts. And it's not going to work out every time. But boy, if you can make the right moves or be good at capitalizing on opportunities, like, God, stuff comes together.
Absolutely. And that's what it is positioning, right? Like you're saying, you're positioning, and that's ultimately how my elk hunt ended as well. It's not like I'm making these special moves or being extra sneaky, but you're working the topography, and you're getting up on the mountain, and you're being up there at the right times. And like where you set up to glass is more than just finding a glassing knob. You're looking at the terrain and saying, okay, if something comes in behind me, what do I have for options? What do I have for plays? And so that's ultimately how I killed my bull. Was I just set up in a good spot. I was staging, actually hunting another bigger bull, and the bull that I killed came rolling over the top with cows. I'd never seen this bull before, and he come rolling down the face, but I set up so I had this nice ledge behind me, and I could duck back down and use that for cover. And then from when I saw that bull to when I killed him, it was like 7 minutes. It was so fast. But I set myself up with that in mind, being like, okay, what if something comes from this direction, from past knowledge or from talking to other hunters? What do I know that these elk do? Let's set up in a place that's going to benefit me in more than one way. And so that's ultimately, what hunting is, or how this hunt panned out too, was just positioning and just understanding the topography and understanding the habits, and the same thing, exactly what you're describing as well. These bulls come and go, and if you see them one day, you better try to make a play, because tomorrow they could be 10 miles to the south. Mm-hmm. And so that's ultimately what it was, is just spending time out there and being in a good spot where I could make a play.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point in staging. Mine, my elk hunts came together both on my first plays on those bulls. I think that staging is so important, and I killed mine because of staging as well. But the real reason I killed both my bulls was the element of surprise, like never giving myself away. And so the bull, the big 7 that I killed, he actually came out middle of the day screaming his head off, and he was on the edge of the timber, and I had that great wind. And so I tried to kill him middle of the day. I went in and closed in on him and got in there in the timber, and I spotted his rack at 37 yards bedded down in front of me. And he was bedded right there, and he had a cow in front of him, and I waited there for a half an hour with a strong wind in my face for him to stand up and catch a window. Cow got up. She walked out at 30 yards broadside. He started to follow her. Cow turned around back in the brush, and there was like some windows in there. When I was younger, I may have tried to force an arrow between the branches, or there was one time, you'll be able to see on the video, he walks away and walks through one of my windows, but I wasn't at full draw. I wasn't he could have seen me draw if I drew the way he was on edge. And so I didn't draw back. But if I would have cow called and been at full draw, I would have stopped him at 35 or 37 yards and plugged him. But it was just such a snap move scenario, and he walked over and started chasing that cow. And then I didn't take chase because it was like these thick cedars in there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna bust him. I know he's got cows in there. So I actually backed out middle of the day, staged like you're saying. I went around and I had this knob that overlooked that whole side of the timber, and my cameraman says, well, what are we going to do if he comes out on the other side? And I'm like, well, he's going to bugle from that other side, and our wind is coming from that bull or that timber to us. We can't set up on the other side, so we've got to play this side and hope he comes out this side, or hear him bugle and we'll take chase. And then sure enough, set up on that knob and he came out in a good spot chasing a cow in the evening. And then I wrapped around, I made a play on him, and I got there and he wasn't there. And I heard him bugle like over to my right. I'm like, we got to get back on the vantage point. Circled all the way back around, up on the vantage point, spotted the elk. And then, like you say, it was 5 minutes from then to when I killed him. It was just sneak back around, saw him again, back down the draw to the right, come right up with a perfect win. And he was feeding there. No idea I was there, and able to put a perfect arrow into him. But I killed that bull because he didn't know I was hunting him. I kept the element of surprise, and I killed him because of where I staged up to see him come out and then know where he is and make a good play, man. It's like so beautiful when it comes together.
Yeah. All the factors, right? You're using that echolocation, the bugle. You're like, okay, he's telling you what he's doing, and you're waiting to strike, right? You're waiting for your window. And it seems like that's how it comes together so often, is from that stage and then going to strike. And it's the same way, like, especially when I'm hunting, if I want to kill something, if I'm going in for the kill, there's no room for error if you really want to get close and get it done. And so when you stage in these little spots, usually you can monitor the wind, very accurately, because that's obviously very important. And then topography, and the beauty of hunting elk is they tell you where they're at if they're talking. And so you can really be calculated with how you strike and when you strike and how you hunt ultimately. And you can do that so effective that you can blow out minimal animals. And that's so important, like what you illustrated before there. And I think, me as a younger bow hunter, I probably would have pushed it in that tight cover, that tight stuff. But you were able to recognize that, okay, my window is diminished, and I had a great wind. I didn't blow anything up. Let's just back out, be patient. And it's the dance, right? It's what we talk about all year. And it's the dance of feeling these situations out. And what brought to mind was Jared. I still haven't responded to the text with Jared Katie, but he finally got that bull that he was chasing, but he's figuring out the dance. And, I could see his excitement when he texts me, and he's like, I got one. I finally got this big one. And he figured it out. And they definitely have a lot of encounters, his little group, and they were struggling with like putting, connecting all the dots and putting it together. And so it was cool to see him like really put it together. And I think a lot of things clicked for him this year, and it's cool to see his passion and his experience grow. But that's what we're talking about. That's what we preach about. That's what it's a dance, and it's a feel thing, and it just comes with experience. You just got to get out there. You have to fail. It's a prerequisite. You have to fail, but you start, if you're a good student, you start picking up on these things and you start learning, and then all of a sudden success finds you.
Absolutely nailed it. Yeah, it is the dance. It's the instincts. It's these decisions you make, and it's like, it's something you can't write down in a book, or you can't, like, it's really tough to articulate. But it's just making these micro moves and knowing when to freeze and when not. And I've had good luck this year. I killed another bull, and it was the same thing. It was like, got up there, spotted the cows coming out, spotted that bull. He's in the perfect spot for a stalk, perfect wind, but I can't move. I'm frozen on the hillside because I can't get around to where I need to be. So I just have to watch him feed off this ridge, and they finally go over the top. I make my way to the top, and then don't see him down there, and then, hear a bugle faintly, like up to the right, like, oh, that must be him, and like start working up there and spot him in the aspens and see him. And I mean, it was early, like 4:30 in the afternoon when I got him, but I had to slide down on my back down this hillside, and I'm still 500 yards away. I just know I can't give myself away. I can't let any of these cows see me. I got to keep the element of surprise. And so slid down the hillside, came up below the elk, didn't know I was there in the aspens. And I mean, I could have shot, a bunch of cows in there, and that bull was just out of range, and he rutted right in front of me 100 yards for what seemed like an eternity, chasing these elk around, and just never had a chance until they worked to the left and over a rise. And I took chase, and I got over there, and they're still 100 yards out. And I'm like thinking, oh, maybe I can work around the top end. And the wind was like coming down the draw and down. And I'm like, that's just not going to work. And so, I like walked around and made a big circle down and around where these elk were headed and got in front of them. Still had no idea I was hunting them. And this hunt took place. It was a 3-hour hunt on this bull, and got in front of them. And then all the cows worked into me 20 to 70 yards. And I still wasn't sure if I was going to have enough light to kill the bull. He was out there at 115 and then 105. And then finally he comes in and makes a mistake and able to lace him with a good arrow. But it's just like you say, this dance or these instincts or these moves you make, you kill elk, where when I was younger, I'd just make a mistake and I'd blow up the herd, and then I'd have to go find another one. Or, they'd catch my wind because I wasn't reading the wind correctly. And not that the wind can't swirl or you can't get busted, but it's like, all these years of experience, they like hone your skill set, hone your craft at like being able to make the right moves and the right decisions. And there's 100 right decisions you have to make, and one mistake, one movement, one giveaway of your position, and the whole setup's over. But if you get all these things right, throughout the years, you like get better and better at this decision-making process. And not that I don't spook animals or I don't screw up opportunities, but you get really good at like capitalizing on these opportunities, or like having confidence, like in your setup, like that bull backing out. I had confidence he'd come out that evening and we'd kill him. Like you just start to like hone the decision-making process or these instincts. And then pretty soon, just like you stated, success finds you.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of this first bull that I got into September 5th. So I was hunting early season, and, these bulls, it was warm and it was tough. It was tough early. I finally heard a bugle. I'm hunting this thick unit, and it was so textbooked. And that's why I think it was enjoyable was, after hunting elk, you have these things, this, a textbook that you write in your mind of what elk do and what they're thinking, and, the calls that they're making. What are they really saying? What are they actually doing? And so I finally found this bull this morning, September 5th. It was early. It was warm, and he just chuckled. He would just give some chuckles, and he's on this thick north face. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm picturing what this bull is doing. I'm like, okay, he's on this bench. I'm across the drainage from him. He's on this bench on the north face. Let him chuckle 6-7 times. And I'm just giving him like a spike bugle back just to keep him talking, because he's helping me pinpoint him. And he's on this north face. I can see there's a bench in there. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, it's this early season. He's totally on his little, pre-rut bachelor pad, where they rub in there, they're wallowing, they're strengthening those neck muscles. They're not really rutting yet. They don't have cows. So we slip in there, and it's still morning, I think 8:30 in the morning. And I want to come in from below them because those thermals. And I'm just feeling him out as I go. And I can tell he's not that fired up. He doesn't like lost calf calls. He likes these little spike bugles. And this is drastically different than how I killed my other bull later in the season, like kind of what you're saying, like elements of surprise. And this is the dynamic of elk hunting that I love, because these stalks and the hunts are so drastically different sometimes. But I get in close, and this bull's kind of moving back, and I come in and I challenge him. I'm amping up my bugle a little bit. Now I'm in his zone, and I crest up over the rise, and there's this nice bench, and it's just like something that you would picture in your mind that a bull would love to live here. And that's what it looked like. And I gave him that last bugle, and then I bumped up as quietly as I could, 20 more yards, and that crested up over the top. And he was coming out to meet me, to confront me. That classic early season, he's testing the waters. He may think he's going to be a herd bull, but he hasn't had any confrontation yet this year. It's so early. And so he comes out to 35 yards, and he gives me that same chuckle, and he's waiting for me. Like, it's this dance that you know exactly what he's doing. He's coming out to confront you, to meet you and say, hey, show me what you got. You're invading my space here. This is my little pad. He had his rubs everywhere, this little rub line. It was pretty cool. And so he stood there, and I'm just lurking in the shadows. And after probably 2 or 3 minutes, I didn't show myself. I didn't reveal myself, not at 30 yards. I don't want to do that. It's pretty thick. I didn't have a shot. But he turned and walked off, but he walked through one of my gaps, and I gave him a little chirp, and he stopped quartering away, and bam, perfect shot, 34 yards, 100 yards, and expired. But those are the hunts that you put together after several years of trying it and learning. And my one encounter, and that's what I really try to capitalize on, is just one encounter. That's all I need, is one encounter with a bull that's in the right mood. And it's almost like you're getting to the point where you know what he's going to do before he even does. And that's ultimately what bow hunting is. That's how you capitalize on all these stocks, is know what's going on, and you're one thought ahead of that bull. And so hunts like that, even though it wasn't like a giant bull or anything, but extremely satisfying and extremely helpful to building that future knowledge and those tools in that toolbox for understanding elk on a future hunt. But just a very positive experience, and probably, honestly, my favorite encounter from the fall, honestly, because I got to communicate with them, and I still had the jump on them, and I still was a step ahead of them. And ultimately it ended in a successful harvest. But for me, that was a very gratifying, like, fun experience.
Yeah. It that is a huge part of it, like really knowing your quarry and what they're going to do before they even do. And I'm the same. I don't call, I'm all silent, but I know what these bulls are going to do, and when they're going to come out to feed, and when they put away to bed, and I can tell from their bugles where they're moving to and what they're thinking. And same thing with the mule deers. I can pretty much call where he's going to bed, and he's not going to be there for long, and he's going to, like, you just start to know your quarry so well. And then you get better at reading winds and when your all in moment is, and so like really listening to your instincts in those moments, like when you're having those encounters or when you're having those chances. And it's like when I was younger, I've chased a lot of good bulls throughout my years, and I've just made little mistakes here or there, and it just seems like they're one step in front of me. Like the bull will just stop with a tree in between him and his vitals, or that bull was coming, but he was on the far side of his cows, or the cow caught me moving, or I got too aggressive. I thought he was over the next canyon. I moved too fast. He caught movement. Like, I just have all these situations or encounters where I've chased these giant bulls where I just made a little mistake here or there. And not that I haven't killed some great bulls, but there's been some bulls of my dreams that I've just made that little mistake on, or just haven't quite got right. And the difference is like, throughout all these years, you just start to get better at those little decisions, and when to go all in and when to hold back and when the wind isn't right. And it's not, this calculated play that you scratch down on paper that this equation tells you're going to kill that bull. It's just like a gut feeling of what you can do and what you can't, when you can move and when you have to freeze, and like all these things. And so yeah, like I think that's the difference. Like killing this bull, it's no different than an opportunity I would have got 5 years ago. I'm just getting better and better at really capitalizing on these opportunities when I find a good bull that I want to shoot.
And that's a great point. And I believe that anybody can do this. Anybody really can. And I think what's important is, taking notes. I know it sounds silly, but like if these encounters, if they're successful encounters or maybe unsuccessful encounters, write down what happened. Write down, ultimately what decisions you made to make it a successful or an unsuccessful stalk or hunt or whatever that might be. And soon enough, you'll start building correlations of maybe where your weaknesses are. And I've been fortunate enough over the last decade, basically all my hunts have been filmed. So I have this video that I can go back to or be like, okay, why was I successful here? So it's basically like video notes, right? But over the course of time, and once again, anybody can do this. Anybody can learn this if you put in the work, if you are a good student. That's what bow hunting is all about, is being a good student, just like school, right? And so it's by taking notes and learning and understanding, and this is over the course of time, that's how you can develop into what you just described. I mean, you just know what to do now. You're just out there and you can strike and be successful more often than not, because everything is so refined over the course of time. And so whether you film your hunts or not, take notes and really pay attention to those details and build those correlations over time. And anybody can, put these pieces together and become a very proficient bow hunter if you want it bad enough. That's ultimately what I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like a great point. It's the quicker you can learn from your mistakes and improve from them, the better bow hunter you're going to be. It won't take, it won't take as long, to make those improvements if you can start to see correlations in it. And it's like, man, I have a group of buddies or circle of friends, and I've had people staying at my house. Like, it's been chaos for the last month. I've had Australia buddies, Hawaii buddies, buddies from Montana, buddies from other states that have come through and have hunted. And there's a bunch of good hunters, and some of them have been successful, some of them not. But it makes me realize like how difficult it is. Like, I see these guys grinding for 10, 12, 14 days in a row, getting encounters on bulls, like close calls. And yeah, if you can start to see a correlation and not, sometimes it is like they are just really tough to kill, and you're not going to kill every one. I've had good fortune this year. Like, I've made the right moves. But if you can start to tell, like, God, I keep like I heard correlations from like some of my buddies that came to these conclusions in these places. And so my buddies that were hunting these places and getting encounters, like, he told me like he had these revelations during the hunt. Like, he learns every year when he's out. And so he'd have these revelations. He's like, yeah, I figured out I can't go chase those things in these timbered bowls. Like, the bowls in the timber, the wind was fickle and I'd get busted. Like, I had to catch them out on the face and the winds were more steady, or I couldn't dive into these bowls. I had to wait till they were on the ridge lines or wait till the evening and I had this downhill thermal. Like, I could start to see him like make these correlations in his brain of what was working and what wasn't working, and so he's still building his set of rules of what he can get away with. And he's a great bow hunter, but he's learning elk of the species. And he's like, yeah, I did this and it didn't work out, or the wind switched. And then they started to get into him and had more close encounters towards the end of their trip by making this set of rules. So I think like the quicker you can make these correlations, and the wind switches, right? I mean, that happens to all of us. It's mountain winds, but the more you can learn these thermals and directionals and what they're doing and this higher understanding of it, the less I get winded. And that goes for mule deer and for on elk. Like, a few of these mule deer, I mean, I was waiting for 2 to 3 hours inside bow range and I was confident in the wind. Or the bull that I killed, I was a couple hundred yards away. And then, all of these elk that I killed, I was able to figure out what the winds were doing and come around. And that doesn't mean that the wind doesn't swirl on me or that I don't get winded, but I just get winded less. And if you can take that variable out of the equation, how many more elk would you kill? Like, there's more elk that bust hunters by the wind, or, and I see hunters on these hunts too, like, make bonehead moves, like going after elk with just a horrible wind because they get excited and they start chasing them and they just got a bad wind. Like, they have no chance at success, but they come in with a bad wind and end up blowing those elk out and never getting a chance at them. So if it's the wind, like, dial that in a little bit more. Or if it's they catch movement, and you like elk pick up movement so well, and there's so many cows, like you have to know when to freeze and what you can get away with and what you can't, and how to use that ungulation and topography, like you said, to be able to close in, or just know when you have to hold still and let those elk feed off and get over the next rise, and then you make your move. And so like all of these things, like you can improve on by taking notes, by learning from them, by building your own set of rules of what you can get away with and what you can't. And like you said, figuring out where your weakness is and where you can get better as a hunter, because it is so difficult out there. So it's like, if you're not learning, like you're not going to be a consistent bow hunter. Like you constantly have to be learning and evolving and trying to improve on these skill sets, because it is so dang difficult out there.
It really is. And when you say evolving, it's like, man, that's so true too, with areas and trends and tag allocations and all these things. The list goes on and on and on. Just because you've had great hunting in a year, in a spot 5 years ago, doesn't mean that it's going to continue to be good, or the elk are going to continue to do the same things. Now, there are some spots, and this is why you hold them close to your chest. There are some spots that over long periods of time, I've found consistent success in there, and the elk do the same thing. And, thank the Lord that the management strategy doesn't change in that area. So things have stayed good. But that's a whole animal in itself, is the management tactic, and, how burns can change things, how weather events can change things. And ultimately elk behavior, private property management tactics change things. I mean, by what a rancher or a farmer plants in his field can totally change the hunting on public land around it. It's really amazing. And so you factor in just reading wind, and it can be overwhelming because there's all these factors that you have to put together, and it's so hard. There's not like a cut and dry equation that's going to lead you to success. And so, as we've talked before, resourcefulness, that's a huge one. How resourceful are you? How good are you at maybe networking, or understanding crops, or understanding management practices and season dates? I mean, that's a whole nother one. It drives me nuts when these states, they have these limited tags, these great quality trophy hunts, but they have a cow season going on at the same time. That stuff drives me nuts. And so I stay away from hunts like that. So there's all these things that you have to factor in, that are ever evolving, exactly what you illustrated.
Yeah, there's 1,000 different factors. I'm smiling so big because you're right. It changes every year, and there are some spots where the elk do the same thing and they frequent the same areas, and it's nice to have that knowledge. But yeah, it changes every year. The feed changes. I mean, one of my hunts, it depends if it's a clover year. Did they get the rain? Are they in the ag? Are they, so there's like 100 different factors. So it reminds me this year. So I went into a spot, and I've hunted the spot handful of times, and it's always been good to me. I always find bulls in there. I killed a great bull in there. I know what they do in there. They love this part of the mountain range. It's really remote. Well, it's been easy to find on a map, I think, where it's like the farthest place away from access points and roads, to where it's easy for guys to figure out there's elk in there. That's where they want to be. And so there's more pressure in there. So I think they've just got the elk run out of there. The elk are doing different things. So me, I didn't get a chance to scout this unit, and I'm just going on these dates, and this spot is money. And from here, I can explore these different areas. And so I packed up 5 days worth of food. I loaded my cameraman and me up. I'm so excited to get hunting elk, and it's pouring down rain. It's like this huge storm, but it's supposed to break. And it's like, I was so eager to get in there. I'm like, yeah, we're loading up 5 days worth of stuff. Let's go backpacking. We'll get in. This is our first camp spot. And it was miserable. I mean, I was soaking wet from the brush and the branches, and then the pouring rain. It wasn't raining bad at the truck or the trailhead where we left, but then it just started to just pour the whole way in. And you can't really hike with a rain jacket or rain pants. And so the brush just got me soaking wet, and then it's dark and it's foggy. And so, I mean, we had a few hours into our first camp, and we were just drenched in the dark, and we get in there and climb in our sleeping bags. I didn't sleep much. It was like got down to 26 that night. And I was soaking wet, just climbed into my bag. It's just like these mistakes that, that I still make because I'm like over anxious. I want to get in there. And these storms can be really good for elk action, elk activity. And I figure if I get in there, during the rains, when it breaks the next day, I can add a hunt to my window that I can be out there. I'm going to get a hunt in the morning. I can move camp. And I get in there soaking wet, not much sleep, wake up early in the morning, and I'm to my prime vantage point where I've killed bulls off of, and I've seen 10 different bulls in this area, 200 cows. They're just everywhere around there. And it was damn crickets. There wasn't an elk to be had. There was nothing to see. I made that classic mistake of not being mobile where I should have taken in 1-2 days worth of stuff and seen if the elk were there first. But, oh no, I'm all in 5 days. I've got all our water, all our stuff. And there isn't an elk to be had. We searched around a little bit, but some older sign, and they had just been bumped out of there early, I think. But so yeah, I ended up having to dry out my stuff and pack all the way back out of there and starting over from scratch, And so it's like the elk do different things every year, and you're either in them or you're not. But elk hunting, a lot of times you're not in them. Like you got to be able to adapt to the situation you're given, and you got to be good at like finding critters and finding other animals, finding elk, finding mule deer. And even my mule deer spot was different this year. They had green feed, and bucks were just not in some of their drainages where I normally find them, and so it does kind of change every year. And so like you say, there's so many different factors, so dynamic, the different things you have to get right to put yourself into animals just to give yourself a chance.
Absolutely. I think about stuff like that when maybe I come to a new area, or I find an area that has a ton of sign, and I don't have any success, or I don't find the bulls, and I've never gone back. But it has to be a good area, and there's sign there, but I've never gone back because I didn't find action there. I wonder how many of those areas I've been to that are actually dynamite elk spots that I've basically overlooked because of just how much elk move and how they change, and with pressure, how that affects them. And so just by out of happenstance, they weren't in there for those 2 days, but maybe the rest of the season it's off the Richter in there with action. But you'll never know unless you go back, right?
So true, man. Yeah, you never know. Timing is such a big deal as these elk frequent different locations. And yeah, it's like if I don't find action, I wonder how many spots are like that you go in as good elk country and the elk frequent there. Your timing's just a bit off and you never go back because you didn't find any elk in there. But the spots that you do find elk, then you dive a little bit deeper. And the spot where I killed that big bull this season is a spot I've never been, a spot that I e-scouted, that I wanted to check out, that made sense on maps, that made sense everywhere else. And that first night I caught that big bull that I was telling you about, that was the big 6 or whatever. But if I wouldn't have caught that bull in there, if it would have been crickets in there, I may have never gone back. And then it ended up being like just a dynamite spot where I killed that big 7-point out of. So yeah, I wonder that as well. It is timing, and you shouldn't forget about spots if there's good sign, good rubs in there. And even if you don't find an elk, it may just be different timing, but that can be tough to do. I tend to remember the spots I find elk at.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those definitely get a pin on, somewhere, Google Earth or OnX or somewhere. Mm-hmm. But I don't name those spots on OnX. I don't know if big brothers watch at me or not. So I'd be careful how I label things.
Yeah. For a long time, I didn't even put pins. It's just all off memory. I was like, I don't mark everything. That's for sure. I've got a little bit more lax. I tend to mark a few more spots nowadays. But yeah, for a while there was spots and units and locations that I hunted and places where you can't find a pin. And there's probably still quite a few of those places in my memory that don't have any pins on it. Just in case Big Brother hacks my phone or something.
Exactly. Exactly. I've done the just the spam my account with pins, so now there's like 7,500 pins on my account. So good luck, and they're unlabeled.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've marked a lot of it. Yeah, my account is definitely spammed as well. Yeah, that's it. I do that with pictures too. It's like good luck trying to follow my pictures. I take pictures of where it's crappy hunting too. It's like a lot of those are the ones that I post. So yeah, it'd be tough to pin down my locations that are actually good hunting for sure. So Big
Yep.
Brother's got a task on his hands for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
I wanted to ask you what you saw. So September's come and gone. It seems incredibly fast. Here we are. What is it, October 4th? How was elk season? Like, what did you see? Were anything out of the norm activity? I mean, what's the overview of September for you?
Um, Gosh, I mean, I wish I could tell you, Dan, I didn't have that many hunting days hunting elk. I just would get in there, I'd find the bull I want and put an arrow in him. I think, I had that 10, 11 days hunting mule deer, but I think I only had 5 days of hunting elk and then plus some pack out days and then help some buddies pack out. And so, it's tough for me to even get a feel because I was two different units and I only hunted 4 or 5 days. So, I mean, to me, it was epic. It was like I found elk and killed elk. It seemed like the rut was real strong. It seemed like the weather really brought them into like this rut craze. And I've seen that before. I've also seen weather shut them down too, but it seemed this year when the rains came in and the cooler weather, they absolutely went off. It was like those are the days you wanted to be in the mountains. And I spent one of those days just soaking wet, hiking into an area with no elk. But I think the weather sure seemed to turn them on. It seemed like the rut was fairly typical. Like the dates I like to hunt were really good and showed up. I mean, it always seems like it takes them a while to get going. So it seemed like, again, it was that 12th before they really got going, 15th, 17th before it was really peak rut. The early 20 days, like 22nd, 23rd, 24th, those dates always hunt well for me. Seem like those dates hunted well. I've had buddies in the field that saw good rutting action. Like locally here, it seemed like it was a little bit later for guys, like maybe 15th, 16th before it really kicked off. But seemed like the feed was good. Seemed like there was elk around. Numbers seemed good. Populations and things. So I don't know. Tough to. I haven't really thought about it much, but God, it happened quick for me this year. I don't know. I just caught a little bit of luck, like you're saying, and just played the right bulls and the right moves and able to put good arrows into them. So I really didn't have a grind of elk season that I'm used to. And that second trip, I'm like, okay, first trip went way too easy. It's not going to go this way. And so I packed for 2 weeks worth of stuff, coolers full of everything, and I was ready to live out there and grind. And I was able to kill a bull the second day of that second hunt as well. So really everything went as planned this year for me. It couldn't have gone better. It was like there's a saying in Australia. I can't repeat that one, but yeah, they kind of like my Australia buddy told me I had a fairy in my pocket. Everywhere I went, like just everything would turn to gold. And he isn't wrong. It was like everything was right this year for me. But what about you? What are some of your takeaways from September and the elk rut, places you hunted, things you saw? What are some of your good takeaways?
Yeah, no, I would say things were typical. The weather was weird this year. It seemed like where I was hunting, it was either hot or it was like an intense storm with heavy precip. The one day we got almost 6 inches of rain in 14 hours,
Oh my God.
like flooding, like insane. Yeah. And then we had like a north wind for 4 days. The hunting was unbelievable during that time. And then, the times it was 80 degrees. I mean, it's going to be 85 degrees here today, and the extended outlook looks hot too, but it seems like it's been on or off weather wise. And that does play in with elk activity is kind of what I saw too. That worse weather, after or right before saw good action. And then some lulls on some of the rain days or the storms that rolled through was really good. But I would say overall action was spotty, but when it was on, it was epic. Yeah, it was epic, and I experienced some of the best hunting that I've seen ever this year during some of those weather windows. And so I thought that was awesome. I thought it started a little bit slow, but it's just the heat, the heat early. things kicked off a little bit slow. But you hear guys that talk about that, like, oh, the elk aren't running yet. And I think it just varies so drastically region to region and mountain range to mountain range, depending on the climate of the area and the weather patterns in the areas. And so it's hard to say. Like, I've even heard guys say that, like, yeah, it seems like just everything's later now, like something with climate change or something, to the ruts later or whatnot. And like, I just think you hunt the desert, man. That's what I think it is. And it's just everything's a little bit later. And so I know you've experienced the same in some of these drier climates and lower elevations. Like, the first couple weeks of October is awesome for hunting rutting elk. And so it's hard to, like, blanket statement say that, like, oh, it was a great elk year or it was a bad elk year. It started off slow, but yeah, around those cooler weather windows, it was phenomenal. And that was, I think it doesn't matter if you get weather that comes in the 10th, stuff's going to happen and elk are going to be moving, or if it comes in the 25th, elk are going to be moving and stuff's going to be happening. It just depends on the weather. And the moon was interesting this year too, with that full moon that kind of peaked around, I believe, the middle of the month, the 17th or something. So early season, it was plenty dark. Mid-season or mid-September, that full moon popping, and then, it's dark now again. But some weird things, like in the backcountry in Wyoming, like early season, it's super dark at night. Everything's super still. The horses, you can't even hear one thing. The horses are just standing still. Like, it was eerie feeling almost on some of these nights early season when it was just so dark, and you could hear a pin drop out there. And so, yeah, some interesting experiences, but it was definitely a season of extremes, I feel like, with the moisture and these super strong thunderstorms that would come through and dump all this sleet. And like you said, stuck in the tent for a day and in the rain and the sleet and the fog and then, back to 85 degrees. So yeah, just every year is a little bit different, but it was definitely a fun one. That's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you had an all-time season. I knew you were having fun. We corresponded a little bit during season. It was, yeah, it's when you guys like me and you love to chase elk, love to chase mule deer. Yeah, you're just trying to make the most of it, soak it in, give it your all. And yeah, I think that weather does play a factor. I think the hot weather is really tough on guys. I think, less movement during the day. You just have this small window to get on them in the morning and at night, and maybe kind of shuts the rut down a bit. And I'm like you. It's like you can't make blanket statements because it ebbs and it flows in different mountain ranges, different states, different units. The elk are going to rut. It's just whether or not you caught it or not, caught the wave or not. And maybe in your location, they didn't rut till late, or they were quiet because you were in hot weather, But yeah, it was a trying season. I think my buddies struggled as it got late, as it was so hot, and there wasn't as much elk movement or rut action. I think they rutted a lot at night and things. So it was a year of extremes for sure. But man, what a fall! Like, what a September! I mean, to cut the legs loose and have our bow and arrows and be in the woods. I mean that. I think I was 11 days doorstep to doorstep on that high country muley, and it was so trying. I had 4 or 5 plays that just could not get it come together. I didn't spook a lot of bucks, but it took everything, every ounce of willpower I had to kill a buck in that high country, which was pretty cool to have it come together. And then to carry that momentum into elk season was pretty cool, to make the right plays on 2 great bulls that I'm super stoked to harvest. Was just unreal. So yeah, congrats on your season and all your adventures, and only having a couple days off September. You sure did it right for September, and have some great bulls to show for it. So man, it's just absolutely awesome, wasn't it?
It was. What a great year. It goes so fast, to all this, the September that we prepare for and we think about all year, and man, it goes so fast. But that's what it's all about: capitalizing on your opportunities and being ready to strike when those opportunities present themselves. So yeah, congrats to you too. Great bulls, man. It's just awesome to see.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, buddy. We connected for recording. I wasn't sure we were going to remember how to still do this. It's been a while, at least for me. But yeah, it is a good conversation as always. So yeah, I really appreciate you, Dan. And yeah, we'll check in with you soon here.
Sounds good. I'm going to go trim the beard a little bit, maybe get some sleep, and go do her again.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. All right.